Good morning, everyone. Thomas here. Hope you guys are okay. Saturday morning. The family's asleep. Good morning, Robotic Head. How's it hanging down under? Hope you guys are good over there. I hope that you're all staying safe and healthy, and so on. And it's time to get into some coding. So I am a nicotine addict, and for those of you who wonder what I'm about to do, this is a very traditional Swedish thing. Snus. I don't know what it's called in English. Snuff, I think. You just put it underneath your lip and you get your dose of nicotine. Better than smoking, they claim. I don't know. I should never have started with nicotine at all, but that's the price we have to pay. I'm a little unsure about the settings for the background music. So if you could just give me a heads up, Robotic, if my sound is coming across or not, that would be great. But in the meantime, let's pull up our terminal here. It's very, very low. So the music isn't in focus, but I could probably bump it up a little bit. So, okay, let's work with this. Okay, so okay, thank you very much, Robotic. Yesterday I stayed up late and I played chess online on chess.com. It's a hobby. It's a corona, quarantine kind of hobby. It's humbling, frustrating as hell. So you think you're good, but you're not good, right? It's like coding. No, it's not at all like coding. It's not at all like coding. Because working software is the primary measurement of success, and if it works, it works. Then of course you can always refine it and you can make it more readable and stuff. But chess is more binary: win or you lose, you F up or you don't, and I fuck up. Anyway, CD projects. We're gonna return to our software as a service platform, and called Pranzo. So I'm gonna work on the client side. And we have a branch called vendor can set up an account. That's the story that we want to work on. So on the backend side, we have an API endpoint, I believe, that can allow our vendors to create accounts. But it doesn't really matter if you have it or not, because we can stub it out anyway. But I will probably check the documentation for the backend in just a second. But here on the front end side, we would like our vendors to be able to set up an account. And I am not 100% sure if I'm moving in the right direction here or not, because I'm considering whether I should have a separate client altogether for our vendors, and like an admin interface. But this is a little bit of a corner case, because so this particular application that I have here is the app that will face the consumers, like the people who are supposed to buy those lunch cards. And where did my code go? It didn't open at all. What? Where are you? Okay. Oh, seriously, where's the code? Oh, it's underneath here. It's high. So the OBS Studio, you see, is kind of interesting because it always stays on top, and it's going to find my VS Code because it was hidden underneath the VS Code interface. But I found you. I found you. Anyway, so we have so this application is the one that the consumers will see, and in terms of let's pull up. We have a browser somewhere. Yeah, we have a browser. So for those of you who are not following, this is the application, right? It's actually on. It's already published or semi-live. You know, we haven't launched this, but it's semi-live. And so we have an interface for, or like a part of the application that targets the consumers. You know, choose a restaurant, purchase online, yada yada. And then we have this section for restaurants that is supposed to target the people who are not yet, are like the restaurateurs or businessmen or entrepreneurs or whatever you want to call them, that are not yet part of the Pranzo platform. And so you want to do a little bit of sales here, you know, benefits of joining, yada yada. And then here I would like to be able to click on a button, join or sign up or something. And then the entire process of, you know, signing up as a Pranzo restaurant kicks in. And we have a few features written about that already. So let me just minify this now. And if you take a look at the code, we have a feature saying vendor can set up a profile. I don't know if this is too small for you guys, if anybody can actually read this. Now let me know if the text is, if I should increase the size. But anyway, so this is the test case for this, which is like a scenario. I do this, and that, and I should end up with some sort of a result. And so here I am visiting the website first of all, right? And I'm doing a specific thing here with the dispatch because in this application I am handling my language settings using Redux. Whether that's the best way of doing it or not, that of course could be debatable, but we're not here for debates because fortunately for me this is a one-way communication. So, you know, and this is my solo project, so I do things myself. So I do that. I with this command, the only thing I do is to visit the web page, and you say, you know, Cypress visit / okay, and then we have a describe block, which is like a context or scenario filling, like vendor can set up a profile by filling in a registration form or something, right? So add by here, right? And then we are getting some how do you say, elements on page, sorry. And this is not very readable, so I would probably want to refactor this to give this some more interesting names, but Cypress tests are not always readable, to be honest, so let's not dwell on that too much. But like one way that I do is that I use a data attribute called CY Cypress that to identify node elements. So there's a call to action that I'm clicking for restaurants, and then another call to action that is called set up profile that I also click. So that's the way into the registration form. And then I have two parts. There's a model popping up that is divided into two sections. One that is the model is called registration UI, and then I have a business info and user info. So because you see, when you register for this service, you should register as a business, but you need a personal account, right? Which in theory brings us to another topic, and that is that a business can have multiple users, right? If I work for a company, I might be not the only one working for the company, of course. Even if I'm like just a small restaurant or something, perhaps I want 2 users, and I don't want to share credentials among users. And sorry to go a little bit off topic, but on that topic, I've heard arguments that, oh, you don't have to set this up. Like for a small business, even people can share their credentials, and I totally buy into that. But I just have to go to myself, and I know that when I create an account somewhere, I often reuse the same credentials that I have on other sites because it's easier for me to remember all the passwords. The best situation is, of course, to use Wealth, because then you don't have to remember any password at all. But if I do have passwords, then I try, I reuse passwords quite often. So is credential sharing an alternative for me? It is not, because if I give my friend or whoever I work with access to my credentials on any site, there might be a chance that this person can at least try to use it on my, whatever, email or what have you, sort of a platform, and that is not good. So I am not an advocate for credential sharing even on small sites. That doesn't make sense to me at all. So in this case, I will probably set up a flow where a business can have multiple users. Well, the API actually already has that, and the first one that creates it, like in this flow where I create my account for the first time, I'm probably going to set that user with some extended authorization. For instance, authorization to actually create other users. So that's right. I'm going to just make sure to talk you through this. We are filling in the business name with local joint. Again, this is just the beginning of this feature, so I haven't really added all the fields yet. And then in the user info, I just fill in the email with randomrestaurantowner.mail.com. Test data, of course. And then we just type in password and password as a password, right? So it could be my password, it could be whatever, right? So the only thing is that it needs to correspond somehow. And then I click on submit profile information or submit profile, or we probably want to avoid having these too long. But yeah, but let's see if we can run this. Wouldn't that be interesting, instead of hearing me talking about it? So let's see, in the package.json we have, right, yarn Cypress. That's what I need to do. Yarn Cypress. That's what we will run. And the Cypress runner is really, really nice. Well, not nice in terms of being polite and somebody you want to get cozy with, but it's really nice, good looking. It's a nice interface, very readable interface, and and it allows us. I often use it as a tool in my development, so I actually have it up and about when I write code. And this is the runner that you see when you run the command that I just run, and you can choose what feature test you want to run. And just to show off, if that's okay, guys, I'm going to run all the tests. I should only run this vendor can set up a profile, but I just want to show off a little bit to see that I have a lot of integration specs. There's a story behind that, but let's just run this. When we click this, we will get oh, it opened up on another screen. There was no wow moment, unfortunately. So let's just stop this runner and rerun the whole thing again. There we go. Right. So you can see all the things that we want to test actually performed in the browser, which I think is pretty amazing. And at the end of the whole thing, we get we see the feature that we are working on at the moment, which should be the only one that I should have run, which is the vendor can set a profile. So you see those messages that we fill out. We can see them. We can see them here on screen, and we can see what is passing, what is not passing, and we can click on this thing, expand those, and we can see the entire test case step by step. So visit the site, get the data for restaurants, which is the one on the corner, the one that is highlighted, and then click on that. Then we added the setup profile, which is the join. Let's see, here it is, the join branch. So it's a call to action. It's being highlighted at the moment. And then once that has been clicked, we should see this model pop up, and with this with all these forms here, and then we slowly start to fill this in with local join here, and then the user info, and so on. And then we click on the submit button, and I'm pretty happy with that. But enough of the showing off. Let's just run this one instead. That is more interesting. Right. And so we will pick this up from now. I'm just gonna make sure that I share the information about this stream on my various Slack channels. So I'm a member of a community that is called Agile Ventures, and we usually want to make sure that some of the people there know about the fact that I'm streaming. So I'm just going to say I'm online now, guys. Join if you want. And then there must be some sort of all right. Link here. There we go. There we go. And then I'm gonna just go to my Craft Academy thing, and I'm gonna say in my general channel that I am online as well. Morning channel. There we go. Okay. And also I want to make sure that my Discord thing, if there are any people around from the Anya verse, which is so Anya, Anya is a nice streamer. She's doing a lot of studying, and she's very inspiring, and generally a fantastic person. And she has this Discord server that is very welcoming. She's building a community as well. I like that a lot. So they have a self-promo channel, so I shamelessly use that channel for self-promotion. So I'm just gonna right. So I'm just gonna ladies and gentlemen. Right. So there we go. Let's see what we can come up with here. Let's take a look at the code now. Let's pick up some pace. So we have the registration form here. We have the registration form here. Let's make this a little. Can I? Right, it can run in the background here. Right. Right. So the question here is if I want to keep. So this is the function that submits profile data. And that is okay. Now, one thing, I probably need some error handlers. I'm using a form, so I need this prevent default. I was hoping that I could avoid using a form, and there are solutions for that, like Redux forms that Mike suggested the other day. But I haven't really decided on that yet. So I'm not really sure whether I should use that. And I created a service. I usually do that. I kind of extract the functionality of actually making the network call and these kind of things to a module or service module or whatever you want to call it, but not try to not keep that logic in my component. And so I'm calling this vendor create here. I'm grabbing the information about the email password and password confirmation, but I should also grab the business name, right? Shouldn't I? Of course I should. So I have this business name. Right. So I should add that, because otherwise that's like, why would I even bother, right? Now, and this is a little bit of a code repetition kind of warning here. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm having this data attribute and the name, and they're the same, right? So one could argue that why are you doing this? Couldn't you just identify this attribute by its name instead of the data attribute? And I could, and you're perfectly fine. I should probably do that, but I'm trying to follow some sort of structure that I agreed to with myself, because it's a solo project, that I would use the data attributes at all times. And I don't know if that's a good decision or not, but it's at least a decision. So I'm gonna probably stick to that and have these code repetitions, fortunately. And I'm using Semantic UI, which is a great CSS framework that carries a lot of good things with it. However, it does not carry the label. So you see I'm using the regular HTML label for this password. I don't need to say label 4 because there is no use case for that, but code-wise it looks a bit weird. And I need to wrap them in this form fields because of the UI, because of the way the semantic UI is built. It calls for a longer description, but I'm using a model. I'm using all of this stuff. And an interesting thing for HTML nerds, I'm just going to say that, you see I have a form here, and the form ends at line 49. The form has an ID. Now, Why would I have an ID? I don't use IDs that often, but I'm using setup. I think setup is could be spelled like this. So this is a profile setup form, and so I am submitting the form down in the model actions, which is outside of the form. So I have a submit button defined here, which is not inside of the form, and that's a bit of a problem, generally speaking, because your submit buttons or submit input fields should be submit fields, sorry, should be inside of the form. Now you can place it outside, and this is a life hack, no, but what you do is that you give this button an attribute called form and just point that using the ID. So that's why you have to have an ID. And so with this setup, with this attribute, you can place your submit button anywhere on the screen and point to the form that is supposed to submit. I've been doing HTML for a long time, didn't know that. It's a epiphany for me, so that's why I'm sharing that with you. It's gonna be one of those today I learned moments for me, at least. So that is a good thing. So anyway, we want this business info. We're gonna say business info. And we're gonna info, not infor, business info, and we're gonna say business info equals elements. I got myself a new MacBook Pro now, so my issues with my keyboard should be resolved soon. So I'm gonna use the new one. This one is going to the Apple store, and they need to fix this shit because it's like doesn't work. So sometimes the keys are reacting twice, and so on. So that's not cool at all. Elements target event target. Sorry, event target. I wonder if I need to have target here. I think I can simplify this. Now, the target has a name. What am I misspelling business? Are you kidding me? Jesus. Yeah, anyway, we have I'm waiting for the M1 or the M2 6. Oh, that's nice. That's gonna set you back a few bucks, right? Wow, I'm gonna check it out soon. Hold on a second. M1, right? So let's see here. I'm fucking things up, right? Yes, I am. I am fucking things up. Oh, you just wait. Okay. Now I'm curious. Hold on a second. Now, let me just fix this stuff. Right. Right. Jesus Christ. The fuck is wrong with me? Right. Okay. We all know that it. Well, we all know. We don't know that. So I'm just so curious. So I need to finish up this small refactoring because I need to Google this now. Just because you got me interested. Let me just see what's going on. I need to get in here. I need to set a debugger here, and right. In a string. Let's talk later. Right, so let's see if we can run this now and what sorts of errors we get. So I'm going to open up my DevTools. I'm going to make this a little bigger. Actually, I can make this full screen. Right, close this. Let's rerun this baby. We fill this up and we are here. And the response is yay. Right, because that's what I hard-coded it for. Let's go down and remove this. Go to the module vendor JS. Here we go. Right. And so, yeah, we need this since no business name. I probably want to pass this as an object rather than a lot of attributes. This is fucking nonsense. This is fucking nonsense. Right, but anyway, we're using a dash here in this name, which means that I can't really say business name. This should be actually name. And so I need to do this. I need to say and then dot value. Now, this is the same thing. This is the same thing as this, but you have to use that for attributes or properties that are not that has any special characters in them, or like dash at least. This wouldn't work. I could, if I do this dot business, you see, I'm getting an error here. That wouldn't fly. I can use this hard bracket notation instead. So let's see if we can run this now again, and I should have the business name available in that module. Now, no, we're getting an error. What? Really? Right, because we didn't pass this in anyway. So am I getting an error somewhere? Let's rerun this. And things are not happening. Why not? We get a warning. React hook user effect. That's not a problem. Why isn't my debugger kicking in? Why isn't my debugger? So let's place one here. And let's go here. Because I just didn't put it. Damn it. What's wrong with you, Thomas? Why isn't it kicking in? Well, because you didn't add it. That's why. Let's run this again. Okay, and now we are in that function here, which is not bad. And then we can have business name, and that's local joint, and we have an email, password, and so, right? Okay. And am I happy with it? Am I happy with this? I might be happy with this, but I also might be not happy with it. And why would you not be happy, Thomas? Well, because I am more curious about the M1 or M2 Max. So let's have a look at that instead. So we need to open up. We could probably use the Cypress runner as a browser, because it is a browser. It's nothing else than a fancy browser. But we just want to check out what Robotic is talking about. All right, it's the air. Yeah, it's a processor. It's a very RAM ARM-based. I mean, general processing if it's Macintosh can be. MacBook Air M1 2020. Oh, Steve Jobs. But M1 are in Air and the MacBook Pro 3, right? Right, but you're looking for a 16-inch thingy, right? Let's have a look. 16 inch. Right, let's have a look at that. No, I understand that. Let's see. Release date. Here we have something. Well, that's a UJS thing, right? That's probably something else. Couldn't come. Have rightfully been in the spotlight for new age of recent rumors. The smaller fort. So I have a. Right. Right. This is the one you're looking for, right? Right. This one is really interesting. I will track that as well and see if and let me know if you get hold of a release date or something, if you know anything. I don't want to sign up for anything. I'm sorry, but I'm not signing up. So, bye. That's really interesting. I'm really happy with Apple, and people are so I have my MacBooks for like a period of 4 years, sometimes more, 4.5 years. So the one I have now has been serving me well for 3 years, but now I have some issues with the keyboard. And I actually inherited. So we had an employee that he got his machine, a good one, and then he moved on to some other career choices, unfortunately. So I'm gonna get that machine for the period of time when I'm fixing this one. But I'm really happy with the one that I have at the moment as well. So, but my next purchase would be probably something like this robotic. I haven't started looking at things yet, but that's definitely gonna happen. Back to code. Right. So what I need to decide upon is progress versus clean code. I would be tempted to get rid of all this. Like if I copy all of this, and then I just pass in event target here. But let me just move this debugger up here, run my test, because I need to see. All right, okay, so you don't want me to do that. Let's comment this one as well for just a second. Let's run this. Right, here we are. And so now I would like to see what is event. Event is the submission of the form, and right, and we have the target, which is the form. So I can't do event elements. That's not gonna fly. No, I need to say event target elements. Right, and we get all of these HTTP values. And we have the, just because I gave them names, that's why I have this business name, email input, and so on, right? So I could actually pass in the event target elements into this function, and I can take care of extracting the data in that module instead. So I'm going to say that event. Well, no, that's not cool at all, actually. That would also break some principles. See, because if I pass that in, if I pass this in, then I lose the abstraction, and the vendor in vendor create object will be dependent on this being a specific structure. We don't want that to happen. No, that's not a good idea. What I will do is I will say vendor, I will create a constant and I will call it vendor data, and I will set this to an object, and then I will basically say business name. Right, I will assign those values here like this. So this is a better way for me to do this. It's a compromise. In my opinion. So I do extract the data from the UI element here, and I pass this. I'm going to pass this object in, and we should be good. We're not really breaking any principles or anything like that. Password confirmation. And I don't know if people here, Robotic, have you done any UI testing? Have you used tools like, for instance, Cypress before? Vendor data. Right. And we just pass this in. Let's see if we can remove this debugger. Rerun this baby. What are you talking about? Am I getting any errors? No, I should be good. I should be here, and now of course yeah, this is going to be undefined because only the first value is has unassigned value. Yeah, well, the Selenium driver was really good. I've used Selenium extensively. Oh, for scraping, yeah, and automation. What did you automate with Selenium? Just to access websites and grab some data? That's really interesting. So let's remove all of this and go to the vendor, and then we're just gonna say create, and then we're just gonna call this data. And here we will make sure that we send some use Selenium to click a button on a page. Well, that's a use case, of course. And so I use Selenium in Ruby on Rails when I did back in the days when I built full stack web applications in Rails. Nowadays I use Rails solely for the purpose of building APIs, so it's not the same thing anymore. But Selenium is still great. But I moved over to Puppeteer and all of that stuff. Hunter Mod, I'm going to tell you what I'm building. I'm building a software as a service that will allow restaurant owners to issue and manage digital gift cards and prepaid lunch cards. It's a small domain, I know, but we have an idea that there is an area of the restaurant business that is not digitalized yet. You know, a lot of, I don't know where you come from, but in Sweden, where I live, if you want to be a loyal customer or gain some, you know, some you know, get some discounts, you can prepay. Let's say you can buy 10 lunches, and instead of paying an amount of money, you get like a 15% discount. And there was a lot of, you know, stamps or pen and paper or punching holes in those. You get a business card like card, and then they, you know, kind of mark how many times you've eaten. And so I thought that this could be digitalized, and so I am building that. And there is a very, very rough consumer-facing website with very almost no functionality. You can check it out. So the system is called Pranzo, and Pranzo means lunch in Italian, I've been told. We chose that. Yeah, I mean, it's 2021. We shouldn't do paper punch cards. Utah, US. So I used to. This is a funny story. I'm gonna just torture you with this. I was in Colorado. This is back in the 90s, and I stayed in Aspen in Colorado for a season for skiing, right? And then we rented a car in Denver and in the springtime, and we had this idea of driving around this fantastic country, right? So we went up north from Colorado. I think Colorado. I think Montana, right? And then went westbound to through Idaho to Washington State, and then we drove all the way down to the Mexican border, from Portland and California, and then some, and Texas, Arizona, or Arizona, Texas first, and then and so on. And the only state that I missed, that I didn't visit, was Utah. Unfortunately, I really would love to go to Utah someday. But on my massive trip around the U.S., that's the only state that I missed. So, yeah, that's New Mexico, everywhere, all of those places. Oklahoma, I've been to, yeah. But anyway. So yeah, it is. I hear fantastic things about Utah. So I'm really, it was a once in a lifetime trip kind of thing. But I hope that I get to do it again someday. But anyway, greetings to Utah from me. And I also hear that there's great skiing in Utah. So being I back then I skied a lot, and that's why I went to Aspen in Colorado, because I wanted to ski. And so we should have gone to Utah, but we didn't do that. But I got to experience the wonders of the world. I saw the Hoover Dam. I've been to Yellowstone, and of course the Grand Canyon, and US is fantastic. I love it. Anyway, check out Pranzo, and if you're interested in this idea, follow my streams. I'm working a little bit on the front end, a little bit on the back end, and today we're in the front end. Making sure that we can build a function where a vendor can actually set up an account. Right. So let's move on. We have this debugger here, and we're passing in some data. So let's just rerun this baby again. Oh, so you do Rails? That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Are you still are you building full stack apps, or are you using Rails for as similar as I do for API only, or what is your strategy there? You build full stack still, okay, that's cool. So have you moved into this? What was David? Well, he did. What's the name of this JS framework they recently added? Damn it. It's called the script. Oh, that's not. We don't have to check his tweets. Stimulus JS, right? Stimulus JS. Filter. I think it's called. I think they called it Stimulus.js. It's never heard of it. Right. So it's created by David Heinemeier Hansson, and it plays well with JavaScript. It plays well with Rails and turbolinks and all of that stuff. So I'm just gonna send you a link to that. And I haven't used it because I kind of moved away from using Rails for full stack development a while back, and therefore I kind of never moved into this thing, unfortunately. But it looks really interesting. I know that they use this in Basecamp, but I'm going to send you a link to an interview I did with David Heinemeier Hansson a few years back. Let's see. Right. Go to YouTube Studio. So my kid is let's see, in the hall. No, spellistor, perhaps spellistor. Sorry about the Swedish interface. Is this course materials? This is not the right place to look at this, actually. Let's just go to this one. Right. So let's stop this. I'm gonna send you a link to this one. So we organized a meet a while back with David Heinemeier Hansson, and here he is. Let's see. Here he is talking to us about Rails and microservices, and getting into coding. So you can check this out at some point if you want. He's a very inspiring guy. I like him a lot, and I was lucky to book him for an online event. But Stimulus is cool. So check it out, and if you find some really interesting use cases, don't hesitate to share it with me, because again, I haven't really used that one yet. But ladies and gentlemen, we are building a function where we're supposed to gather some data from a user that will sign up as a vendor. And we have the business name, the email and password, and so on, right? So we want that to be pushed into our backend. We definitely don't want to respond with yay. That we can be sure of, hopefully, right? So let's now take a look. What sort of endpoints do we have on our backend that could justify this thing? Let's see if we can open a new window here of our VS Code, and then open a recent project, because I know that I had that here somewhere. No, or there it is. Right. So let's just. So this is my Rails project for this system, and we have some specifications here, and we have our request specs, and we can see that we have a group this vendor. Vendor can be created spec. That's interesting. That's interesting. And here we have some more data than what we are actually working with on the front end at the moment. So we have a vendor object with a name, description, primary email, address attributes, right? And then we have, so the address attributes are an array, because we're actually already at this stage allowing the vendor to have multiple locations, which is not a bad thing. I wrote this 2 months ago, so I must be very foreseeing about that. But okay, so we can have multiple locations in some fake towns. Don't worry about them. But we're not passing in any user data here. You see, we're only passing in the business data. So we are passing in addresses and stuff like that. I would also like to see. So first of all, this should respond with 201. This is not really good. The HTTP status code for creating a resource is 201 and not 200, by the way. So we can just add a comment here. Whoops, that's not a comment. It's a comment. No, that's not a comment. Right. Oh, come on. Give me a fucking break here. There we go. Right. To do. Change to 201. That's the spirit. Change to. But I would like to see, is there a response body? I'm not checking the response body here, which is weird. So I would definitely add spec for response body. Right. Yeah. That's a really good response. I know that. So I usually, when I do a post request and I actually create a resource on the backend, I want to respond with 201. 201 is the right one, in my opinion. But that's a really good resource, Hunter. But I should have added a spec for the response body, because I need to take a look at what that actually is. So I'm gonna do a debugger here. So binding prime, and I'm gonna run this particular spec. So I can run it here. Vendor can be created. Well, I can just do this. Let's run this, and here we are. So response. Oh, we can see I have a helper. Right. So this is the response we are getting. The best food in this shithole. Oh, who created this test data? I did. Right. Right. Yeah, coming up with good test data is not. Must have been late someday. It's not easy. Right. I'm not particularly happy with this kind of response, but let's just, we have to live with whatever. We have to play with whatever the cards have been we dealt with. Yeah. So, funny story. Colorado, I was in this small place called Carbondale. I was hanging out with a few friends at a bar, and one of my mates says, let's, it was a really small place outside of Aspen. I wouldn't classify it as a shithole town, but it got me thinking. So we sit at this place, and my friend says, let's go to the other place. And I go, we are a bit intoxicated. So he said, yeah, sure. We had a designated driver, and the guy drives up, and we pull up outside of a bar, and it actually says in neon, like in the big sign, the other place. There were 2 bars in that town, one original one, and then the other place. So they called this the other place, and so that was a really small town. And that got me like really, wow, are you shitting me? But it was called the other place. Why not? Right. But what I do take away from this is that I have, so I can grab this response, and I have API vendors as the URL. So what I can do now here in my test, I can say valid voucher we are using, no, that's the response. So we're using Interceptors, right. So I can create a new fixture here, new file, and I can create a fixture because I'm going to stub out the response from the server. I'm not going to make a call to the server in my test environment. So I'm going to say vendor create response.json, and I'm just going to grab whatever we got from this, but this is of course not JSON yet, so I need to just change all of these to colons like this, and that should be a valid JSON response now. And we will call this the joint because that's what we did, and we can just give this an ID of 10. It doesn't really matter. But here on the vendor can set up profile, I can make sure that I intercept the call to I intercept the call like a post request to the Bocado servers, which is for historical reasons called that. So we can say, right, we can just stub this thing out. Sorry, there we are. So we're gonna this, and then that will be not vouchers but vendors. So if we make a post request to this this thing, this URL, and I can say fixture, and the fixture would be the vendor create response, vendor create a response.json, and I'm gonna have to work with that a bit in a while to actually formulate that, or not form, but form, and give it a good structure to the response. But for now, I just want to make sure to see if this is actually being hit, and it isn't. So I'm not using this yet, so this will not have any bearing on my test so far. Right, we're still just doing yay here. So what I want to do is to go to that vendor thing, and I want to say HTTP, and I want to make a post request to this thing, to this URL, and then I'm just going to pass this in, and I'm going to say vendor, and then the data that we passed in. But that's not gonna be the entire truth for now. This will not. Yeah. Because we haven't really I didn't give this a good structure yet, but I can make this call because what I want to test in just a second. Yeah, I'll show you that. I just want to see if this actually, if Cypress is intercepting that call. Let's see. Have a look at that. Let's see. Why are we getting so bad? Yeah, I should be okay. Why are you giving me shit? Let's rerun this again. Right, it is not intercepting. But it is stubbed. Is it called vendors? Vendor. Oh, shit. Let's see, what? It's vendors. Vendors. There we go. Now we should be okay. Or no? Yes. Yes. And so let's have a look at what is response. And we get a 200 status. And we got some data, and we got the vendor. And now we've stubbed this out now. So that's good. Now it's up to me to actually make sure that we have the right structure on this one. I will pull up the network.js. Here it is. And it's a bit messy. Let me just make this smaller so it fits in on screen. It's a little messy, but I will leave you with reading that through while I go on and get myself a refill of my, morning brew, my coffee. I'll be back with you guys in just 15 seconds. No, just a minute or something. Okay. Don't lose count. You timed me. Okay. So to my defense, the coffee just took 20 seconds, but my kid needed My kid needed help with his PS4. He just got a new game, and kids. So yes, the interceptors. Right. Very good question. The interceptors is a way for me, and that's why I have this file, because I could have imported Axios directly to the service module, right? But what I do is that I listen for incoming or outgoing traffic, and I can intercept that call and do things to it first before I actually allow it to go through. And what I'm doing is that I am dispatching, I'm using Redux here, so I'm dispatching an action saying that there is a call in progress, and I just set a Boolean value in this. And let's have a look at the reducer, and the reducer is up for refactoring, because it's not really the best solution yet. But what I'm saying here is, if this is a call in progress, then I'm updating this loading attribute in my Redux state to say whether it's loading or not loading, right? So in network, I'm setting this call in progress to true when we are sending off a request, and then I'm setting it to false when we have a response. So I can toggle a loader. That's the general idea. I can toggle whether I'm dispatching a loader, I can dim the entire application and so on. And I think that it could be a good UX for people to understand when there is actually a network call happening or something in the background is happening. So I wrote this, and I am experimenting a little bit with this solution. So I'm not 100% sure whether this is the way to do it or not, but I can always intercept network calls that originates from the application at this stage. And I could use these interceptors for other things, like I can gather analytics. I can communicate with some microservice if I want to do some other stuff, whatever I want to do. So it's a neat solution. Thanks. Oh, it makes sense. Good. That's good. So basically now what we've done is that we made sure that if this application uses any resources on the back end, or this particular resource, which is the post request route, to create a vendor, then we intercept that. We don't make that call in test environment. We just respond with any data we want to respond with. And this is actually quite powerful in development, in my opinion. Because at this stage, I don't even have to have a backend route yet, or as in my case, I have one, but I am not very happy with how it's created and what sort of data it receives and so on. So I can hammer out things here on the front end and modify. I can modify the structure of this data the way I want it, the way it makes sense, and then I can just take that data, that input, and also the output, and modify my backend into whatever I can mold that into whatever I want, so I don't have to necessarily, work in two different applications at the same time, continuously making calls to this local host server, and then modifying things, having debuggers in the controller and in the controllers of the API and then on the front end and so on. So it simplifies my own workflow, but also, and I just want to make this case, if you are working in a collaborative setting, you have one team of guys or girls working on the back end and another one working on the front end, then you can just communicate, look guys, I would like to be able to send in this data, and you send them a JSON object. This is the data I would like to give you. Can you do anything with it? And they go like, yeah, we can create those objects, and then we will respond with this data, and they send you another JSON object back, showing what the response would look like. and then you can just use them as fixtures, and that makes it easy for each team. So this workflow is in my opinion really really interesting and makes good sense, right? Right. So where was I? I was in the fact that I have the vendor and then the name, and we called it business name, right? So we're gonna change that in the structure. Right, so we're gonna call it business. Well, this is a response from, we are the response from the backend API. So we're gonna business name. So I usually use underscores. I usually use underscores in on my variable names in Rails. There is a way for me to actually, you know, take whatever I have in Rails and transform that to camel case in using active model serializers, because I don't want to break any best practices on either one of them. But for now, let's just stick to this format, business names. And this is actually a different situation than having a dash, because an underscore is actually totally acceptable as an object name or a property name in JavaScript as well. So that's good. So let's call it this business name vendor. So I'm going to actually say business. Oh shit. Business data or info. So I'm going to modify this, and then I'm going to just put this up, and then I'm going to create another one, and I'm going to say current user, because I need to create both the I need to create two resources on the backend. I need to create, and also the address, right? You should create the address, and I should respond with address and primary email, right? So we need to get the description and the primary email here as well. Right. So we need to, right, this is going to be a bit of hammering out stuff, because I'm coming up with this stuff a little bit on the fly here. Usually in a project, you have a fairly well described, feature description. You know what you should do, and when you do things on your own as a hobby project, you don't get that. Well, you could if I would care about that. But anyway, let's do this a little bit TDD. So we're gonna say local joint on the business name, and we're gonna say business description. And at this stage, I'm just gonna make use, because I don't want to write a lot of text. So I'm gonna make use of a fantastic little tool. Perhaps you guys will like it. There is on npm.js. There is a nice package called Faker.js. Right, this one. Love Faker. Faker is great. Faker in Rails is amazing, and there is a JS implementation for that. So we can just add that to our project. Let's see. I am running. Let's open up a new terminal. There's 3 problems. I wonder what problems there might be. New terminal. And I'm going to add Faker. If this one ever pops up, there we go. Yarn add Faker. But we're only going to add this as a development dependency because there's no need for that. Hey? Nej? Står take. Okej. Okej. På spelet eller på tvn? TV. Men angående spelet, eller? Ja, så text. Okej. Det är lugnt, det fixar vi. Så vi gör så här. Jag vill inte helst resa på mig för att jag jobbar. Så du vet. Men ta ett kort på det. Så kommer du till mig, okej? Emergency meeting with my 7-year-old. I had to help him out a little bit. Right, so now we have Faker, and so we could, let's see, we could right. We could, in principle, I think I can just require Faker. Hold on a second. New update package. Jaha, det finns någon uppdatering. Ta next time istället. Ta på den next time. Det betyder senare. Okej. Så, right. Right, so I can I say this? Const Faker equals require. I could probably use import, but I'm gonna go with CommonJS here. Faker. And then we could say Faker company database BS. Let's create some company BS. Right. So here I'm thinking faker.company .bs. Right. So now it will fill this in. If we just add this to the form, because we don't have it in the form yet, I'm just going to copy this. I'm just going to get this, and we're going to say description. Right. Let's see if we can run this now. And see what it actually fills this. BS stands for bullshit. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's see. Let's see what it says now. My computer is starting to act up a little bit. But I do have mine. Well, can only accept a string or number. What? Deploy bleeding edge network? What the fuck are you talking about? To S, to string, can we do that? What's the problem here? What? Really, what am I doing wrong here? I'm doing something really wrong. Faker require faker. That's the... Oh, I need to call this as a function. Sorry. Right. Back to the drawing board, right? Whiteboard integrated paradigms. Well, that sounds like bullshit to me. So next time we run this, there will be some other data. Implement compelling web readiness. That sounds like BS to me. I actually have a small project that is called a bullshit generator that I used to do with my students. I think we have an API for that. I can't, or at least a client. No, a client. I think a client. Let me just. Actually, I just want to. I go a little bit off topic here, but let's see. If on Netlify, I have this deployed on Netlify. Let's see if I can find that. Yes, BS generator. Right. I have BS generator. We're all about letting your synthesize B2C users. Then you can engage experiences with your while you transition intermediates. Besides, who else can orchestrate plug-and-play mindshare in a way that is as interactive? This enables you to deliver channels while maintaining distributed applications. That doesn't mean jack shit. And so on. I'm gonna send you a URL to this URL. So I built this together with some students at in a demo. I think I have. I shamelessly stole the actual module that generates that BS, but I rewrote it a little bit. Let me see if I can put this up on Git. Find this on GitHub, the source code. BS. Do I have that? BS as a service. Bullshit as a service demo. Yes, that's the one. There's some security issues. Right. So in the source folder, we have a module that is this bullshit JS, and that actually takes care of generating this all this bullshit. So yes, robotic. That's amazing. so yeah, it makes up, and it's kind of tech shit. So if you can try this on some non-technical people, and they might think that you actually are saying something. You do not need to hire a marketing team. They might actually buy into that. I believe they might. I believe they might. So source code it's all open source. Use it as you want. Attribution is always nice, but not necessary. Don't worry about that. Have fun with that. So that's me going off topic. I love coding, right? So I do shit like that sometimes with my students or people I hang out with, because this kind of small projects makes it actually really, really funny to do that. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, nice. willc.ca rated us with 4 viewers. Thank you so much for that. You caught us with our hands in the cookie jar. We were supposed to code, and we just moved off topic. I just introduced my viewers to a bullshit generator app that we wrote at some point. But we're in the middle of something totally different than just dealing with this. We are actually building a small little application that is actually a software as a service app that is supposed to target restaurants and restaurant owners and allow them to digitalize something that is in my opinion, not digitalized yet in the restaurant domain, which is the prepaid lunch cards or gift cards. And I just got confirmation from Hunter that in Utah, the situation looks exactly the same as here in Sweden, in Gothenburg, where if you want to buy a prepaid lunch card, you know, with an amount of servings, you get a piece of paper, and then they either punch holes or stamp them every time you come and eat. And we want to digitalize that management. So restaurants can issue gift cards or lunch cards like this, and then make sure that they can be consumed and so on at some point. So I'm using Cypress IO to test drive a feature that I'm working on, and that is a feature for our vendors to be able to sign up for this service. So if you want to stick around, and thank you very much for the raid. That's amazing. I'm very glad for that. I'm working on my way to affiliate. I'm fairly new on Twitch, but I love coding, and I hope you do too. And we, you know, if you have any input or any questions, then fire away. Right. So we got the business description in. That's good. And then we had primary email. We need that. So we're just gonna say get this primary email, and we're going to use Faker for that as well, because we don't really need any. Well, perhaps I shouldn't use Faker for that. Perhaps I shouldn't use it for the BS either, to be honest, because I probably want to get the same thing in the response later. Let's go with that, with the Faker for now. Email, internet email, right? So it's internet and email, and we're just making use of Faker, and Faker is a tool to generate fake data in your test environment. So primary email, and so we want this to happen here as well. So it's going to be a fairly big model, probably going to need to work something out. Primary. Right, so let's see if we can get that business email, business or main, or yeah, main mail address. Right, up. There we go. So let's see if we can fill this up. Gino 82, right, so we got that. That's nice. That's nice. So what else did we have? We had, yeah, so the addresses, right. So this is prepared. So the backend is set up in a way that that we can have multiple addresses. But in this stage, I will just add one address to begin with. Hunter, thank you very much for hanging out. I understand it's getting late. Yeah, it's getting late. Man, it must be what? 1 o'clock at night or 2 a.m.? Go to bed, man. You need your beauty sleep. Right. Hang out with me again anytime you want. Nice to have you around. And then good luck with your Rails work. And if there's anything you can share, we can pair program at some point together. Rails is awesome. See you later. Let's move on and just, we need to, you know what, let's skip the address to start with. For now, we will address the address issue before we actually merge this code. But for now, let's just get this not done, because this endpoint needs to be rewritten in one way or another. Anyway, what we need to pass in here is the current user stuff. And there is a problem with all of this, because perhaps I'm overthinking this, but in my API I am actually using a library to create this we're actually using a library to create users, which is called device, or a version of device. I don't know if any of you is into Rails, but device is an authentication library used with Rails quite often. And for API usage, you don't want to create a session in this normal or traditional sense, but rather use tokens that you pass around back and forward. So there is a version of device called device token auth that we're using here, and we are making a call to this we're making a call to this auth path with these parameters, which is email, name, password, and password confirmation. Right. So let's start off first that we need this guy to give us a name as well, user information. So we're gonna just have him say name. And the question is if I should go with first name, last name, or just name. That's another problem. And then that is, of course, how we will deal with this on the backend side later. So here on this, we have the name here. And on the test, I want to right. So we have a problem here. Name, and then we will just say Kalle Andersson. So I live in Sweden, so I often use Swedish names for fake data if I ever use that myself. I could use Faker for this, but I don't want to do that yet. But now there are a few problems. Of course, the problem on the back end, how we will handle this, and then there is a UX problem here, because if we take a look at this now, you see the restaurant itself should have a main email address, which would be like, you know, the info at myjoint or what have you. But the user should also have his an email address, which will be used, you know, for him to actually log in later. So that is a bit of a problem. So perhaps we should, I don't know, perhaps we should move, I don't have to deal with this at this point, but I'm just thinking out loud here. Perhaps we should move the business information below the user info, but, you know, so that the whoever is using this, that he or she understands that, you know, you set up a restaurant, but you also set up an account. So should the focus be on the account setup or the business setup? I would say that this info is relevant because we are telling the user, let's see, we're telling the user that we want to click. So we're clicking on. Why can't I just test body? Why can't I just close this? Right. Can I do CI pause? Can I do this? Tests are loading. Right, I already clicked on this, so I need to go up here. Right. Small problems become big problems. So we are on the 4 restaurants page. You know, simplify your sales, increase your revenue, and join Pranzo. Okay, so the question is are we asking the person to join, or are we asking the restaurant to join? I would say, because it kind of have a bearing on what the user expects, what sort of information the user expects to give up, or not give up, but submit. And in this case, if you say join Pranzo, then you're joining as a restaurant probably. So that should be the main focus. And main email address. Right. Anyway, I don't know really what to say here. I'm just worried that this email and this email will be perceived by people like I don't. Why do I have to even say this? Or So well, but let's see what else do we have to say. I'm gonna need to figure out what sort of data we are returning here. So let's exit this, and then let's exit this. Let's exit this. Can I do that? And then just run this spec and set right, let's set the binding right here, and let's run this test. Right. So test-driven development is interesting for the purpose of producing quality software, and it makes you think. That's my main point for driving your development with tests, because you constantly think about what you're doing and why you're doing things and all of that stuff, right? So here I am getting this response on a successful creation. So we're getting status success and the vendor ID. I would actually be inclined to have my front end deal with this in that way. Vendor create, I would say something like this. No, let's copy the entire object, and then let's just grab this thing and then transform this into a thing, and then we're just gonna say 10 here, format this, and then I'm gonna move this in here as the vendor object and remove this. This is what I would like to get as a response. To be honest, I would like to get the same thing as authorization. Right. And the data, which is a default structure from the device library. So I'm not fully in control of that. And that's going to be a bit of a problem to make this happen on the back end. But let's see that we actually get this. Let's remove the current user. Let's remove the current user thingy. Provider, email, user, right. So we probably need to change this to this email in the fixture. Right, and it's in two places. Like this role, and then we're going to say vendor created at. We will probably remove the created at from the response, so we don't need that. And the same thing here. It doesn't really matter for the front end. It's just relevant for the back end people or functionality on the back end. So that's not really relevant for us. Right. We have another 13 minutes, so hopefully we can get this thing done. Business info. Right, so we don't want this to be there either. Sorry. This is what we want. Right. Okay. So you pass this in, and that's the successful thing. Right. Damn it. Okay, so we will just now go into this guy, and we have this debugger, and we will now we'll now just run this and see where we are. There was a wait somewhere set up. We want to get rid of the wait, the pause, I mean. So let's get rid of that. Let's run this whole thing through again and see if we can get this. Right, I need to improve this UI. Why? What's going on? Yeah, well, of course, I didn't have the developer tools open. I need to open them up. Right. And so we will return. Right, we want to return the response data. Oh, this is going to be weird. This is the weird thing with using device token app. So you have to say response. You want to respond with response data. Right. Response data. Right. Return response data. Right. And here, no, it's a bit too early, but we probably need a try catch here, right? We need a try catch because this might actually error out for us. So I'm not gonna deal with the error handler yet, but I will just say let data. Okay, actually I'm gonna call it response. And this will be called data, and then no, we can't call it data. Shit. resource. We're going to call this resource, and then we will say equal this, and then we say response equal resource dot data for this double thing, and then we just respond with the response, right? And we're gonna deal with the try catch with the error handler. Like if we get a 422 or whatever we get for some badly formatted input or what have you, I think this would work. And then in the form, I can just set a debugger here instead now. So we have this vendor create does its work. Right. And oh shit, right. I need to pass in the description. I'm not really right. Description, and that would be the event target elements. Right. Description dot value. I'm not really happy with this way of grabbing these values. And then was primary email. It's primary email dot value. And then there was right, but we want to group this into damn. Well, what was it? Oh shit. We need to vendor data. So this is the tricky thing here, because I need to format this properly. Let's see. Can I just, instead of, I can just pass this entire object in data rather than this thing, right? And now here I can say, like, yeah, I can say business info, and that would be an object, and that object would hold this data, right? And then we can say user info, and that would hold this data. But also, oops, like this, right? And all of this feels a bit weird, but I'm going to say name, and that would be event target elements name dot value. Right, primary description. So that's what we had. We had business name. We want this to be just name, actually, and not business name. Name, description. We want to use the same values as we're going to use on the back end later. Name, description, primary email, name, and that's for the user, will be name, email, password, and password confirmation. So I also can change this to, Well, the element is called business name. Right. Okay. Right. And then let's see if we get any weird shit happening. No. Let's see. Tests are loading. Right, my password. Or not with the following, or from your Cypress cannot value of undefined. What is undefined here? Description. Description is undefined. Okay. Because it's called business description and business primary email. Right, of course. Righty on. Right. So we're just gonna copy this and we're gonna change this and change this, and it's gonna change this to description and primary email. Did we have anything else here? No. That should, and password confirmation is good. We should be okay. Let's have a look. So we're filling things in and we get another error. Thank you very much. Value of undefined on. Did I misspell anything as well? Yeah. Right, Thomas, thank you. That's why you want to run these automated tests, people, so you can actually do typos like this and be able to spot them quickly. Right. Okay, so we are in the callback. Okay. And now the response that we have is exactly what we wanted it to be. Right, and of course this is a stubbed response, so it doesn't really represent all of the things, but that we typed in, but it doesn't really matter because it's just a test case for now, and we're still in the process of hammering things out, so that's all good. That will be what we can do now. The next step will be, of course, to deal with this somehow. Now, the backend has created the resource and the user is created. So the next thing will be to figure out what will we do with this information now that we've gotten it. The backend is already all happy and dandy. We probably want to dispatch the information about the current user when we're getting some headers back and so on. We want to say, hello, Kalle, in this case, your amazing restaurant has been added to, to the Transo network and all of that stuff, right? But that's going to be for another day. We did what we came here for, and that was to make sure that we got a response back from the server, and that's not bad. So I'm just gonna make sure to stop the runner. No, actually I could just I'm actually not gonna stop the runner. I need to do another thing before I stop the run. I need to comment out this debugger. Comment out this debugger, and then I need to just do a global search for debuggers. Debugger, and there is one commented out only here. Good. So that's all good. And then I want to go to my Cypress runner, wherever that is. Are you hiding underneath the OBS studio again? No, it's you right here. Okay. And then I want to run the whole thing just to see if I got anything. Basically, if I fucked up, right? Because sometimes when you work on a feature and you don't run the other tests, some of the functionality that was passing before broke, and you just want to make sure that you know about this as soon as possible. Let's see if the other functionality actually works. We're getting all things done here. So far, so good. And we have translations added to this, so you know, some things are running in English, some things are running in Swedish. Okay, we're going green across the board. That's good. That's good. So now I can stop this with good conscience. Where am I? Right, here I am. So let's just Control C this, and then we can now just go here, and we can stage all changes. And I'm still getting used to using this this graphic interface. I am more productive in my terminal, but you know, and so we can say adds functionality, or adds registration fields and structure to the request parameters, rams. Adds interceptor for registration, create vendor, and adds interceptor for in spec in feature test in feature that's in feature. Yeah, that's enough. Good stuff. So we're just gonna do this, and we're gonna push this up, and I'm going to say that I am grateful for you guys hanging out with me. I will be online later tonight to finish some of this outstanding functionality, add a little bit of translations to Swedish, because you know, this text, for instance, shouldn't be in English only, and of course make sure that I take a look at the flow on the backend, because the way we are sending in this data and the way the backend is set up at the moment will not really fly. We need to do a little bit of tweaking on what's going on the backend. Robotic, if you're around, thank you very much for hanging out. Hunter was a great input, and willc.ca, thank you tremendously for the raid. I am humbled. I will repay that gesture at some point. Cypress is awesome. Coding is awesome. I love you guys. Have a fantastic Saturday, and I see you later. Cheers, guys. Stay cool, stay safe, and stay healthy.